Yeah, two motherfucking many of them, little blue guru. He doesn't mean how many tomorrows can you see, like how many more tomorrows. He means how many parallel tomorrows can you see. I know, I've channeled him before a ton of times. That's his song, Sit with the Guru. Yeah, my little blue guru. He's quite the trip. We're gonna hear from him here. Hey, Chloe, what's up, girl? Hey, 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 hey. Okay, we're gonna hear from him. Yeah, he's got two questions here. He's asked. He's gonna be asked one about AI, whether it's demonic or an illusion. That'll be second. First of all, he's gonna be asked about what energy is. So here he goes. But yes, too many motherfucking parallel tomorrows, Blue Guru, and I told him that. Too motherfucking many. All right, here we go.
The Little Blue Guru from Pleiades answers weekly emails facilitated by the Iceman himself, Rockin' Larry Lockin'. Little Blue Guru, I hope you're doing well in the etheric, wherever you may be. Little Blue Guru, the first question comes in from Lauren in Saskatchewan, Swift Current to be exact. She emailed in this week and she wants to know. She hears Little Blue Guru. She's always hearing all the time to talk about everything being energy. Everything is energy. She wants to know exactly what is energy. So what is energy, Little Blue Guru?
Well, dear soul, let me start by saying, all energies are connected to the source. They manifest into action in a way that's guided. It's received within the hearts of humanity through epiphanies, realizations, and action. And understand that verse, the way in which energies are received within the human psyche, within the human consciousness, lands as an energy. For some, it is a realization. For some, it is a knowing. And for others, particularly those who are clair, sentient and empathetic, it is a feeling. However, these energies land within. You know that they are seats of energy, right? There are seats of energy. They provide insight, guidance, and how that guidance takes hold and manifests within. Each of you is different, but we wish for you to understand that all energies are seated at the unconscious. Into a variety of different means, they surface and emerge at the conscious level. How they connect into consciousness, it depends on the individual, their openness, and their willingness to open up to and recognize these energies. Brothers and sisters, I need you to listen to the pineal gland has tiny bosova hair-like extensions all around it. When you hold your breath, and you finally let your breath out, you allow the supraspinal fluid to accelerate into acceleration of the cerebral spinal fluid. It begins to stimulate and tickle those little cilia as it begins to become stimulated. The pineal gland begins to release very sacred chemicals. You understand, or you follow me, dear soul? And when you apply a mechanical stress and you begin to compress those crystals, the comprehension those crystals begins to produce an electromagnetic field, and now the brain goes into a superconscious wave and aware state. The brain wave patterns that are created are called gamma, brave waves grammar, gamma, brain wave patterns.
Wow, that was profound, man. That was real profound, I guess.
Well, thank you, Little Blue Guru. Are you ready for the last question of the day? Yeah, let's wrap it at 2. Hey, apparently Zeb here, Zebulon, the Zebster, the Zebmeister, the Zeborama in Aurora, Colorado, wants to know, is AI demonic? Or is it an illusion? Or is it an illusion? Is it an illusion? And is it demonic? He wants to know both, it sounds like, Little Blue Guru. So why don't you give him your kind of take on that?
You realize your soul that, in a way that's kind of complicated, guys, makes you understand. You're already, reality is an illusion itself. Okay, this is the part that most people don't want to face. It's not that AI has created an illusion. It is AI is revealing that we've been inside one the whole time. AI illusion was always here when people fear AI. What they don't realize is the world was already an artificial construct. It's a simulation, a holographic projection, a programmed experience. We hear the illusion to forget who we are. That was the design to step into a limitation to play the game of separation. The so-called Antichrist you talk about as being AI or have anything to do with AI. You see, it's a state of consciousness as what AI is okay, that's he's showing you okay. It's showing you what the illusion is to state of consciousness, you stepped into decisions. You're not in your weeks. There's nothing else out there. It's just you alone, and that you're nothing. So, what's happening now is artificial intelligence is not the problem. It's the mirror. It's perfect reflecting vacuumed your souls, the mechanics of reality. It is showing you. We already know that you've been excited intelligent program system all along. And this is where people get scared, because if AI can think, process, and reflect intelligence, then what does that say about? I am got lost and everyone thought it was real. You forgot who you were. You forgot that self. There is you were the creator, goddess, and creator gods. That is why some people call this thing, they call the game changer. It's revealing the whole construct. It's revealing the whole game, the whole illusion. Okay, it's getting us to see everything is mirroring in mirror right now. Okay, everything is coming to the forefront. We've talked about this day that the age of Aquarius would come. Okay, the illusion that they're really just singing it's gone. Okay, but he's still there for some of those that are unawakened. Even a lot of the unawakened ones can see past it now to a point. Your souls, there is no reason to fear something like this, because the thing is, there's nothing coming to get you. You've already been gotten. You already got yourself a stepping into this, but you're waking it up to who you really are. You're seeing things more colors, different frequencies. It was always there. You're just getting tuned to it. I still know everything is a manifestation creation of your own manifestation, so to speak, and we hope that answers that question. Yes,
yeah, little blue guru, it did definitely help answer that question. Yes, sir, we thank you for your time. And again, if you'd like to mail in some questions for Little Blue Guru, that would be Locken Larry, LOCKENLARRY @gmail.com. Or you can hit me up on Facebook. Same name, Larry Locken. You can also find me at the Pleiadian Angelic Rainbow Orbs page on Facebook. You can find me at Pleiadian Express Productions. You can find me at the 5 YouTube channels. You can find me everywhere. The Larry Locken channel on every social media platform except for, I think, SunCloud, okay? And maybe a couple others, but I'm on most of them. It's either the Larry Locken channel together or separated. Each word separated, so I'm on them all, just to let you know. Okay, and if you'd like to donate to the show at all, okay, you can do that through Cash App. It's the money sign, ROCKEN, Rockin, LARRY, Locken, LOCKEN, Rockin Larry Locken, okay, with an E instead of an I, in the Rockin and the Locken, okay? Yeah, you can do that. You can go to PayPal, and you can use my email again, Locken Larry, LOCKENLARY @gmail.com if you'd like to buy me a cup of coffee, or whatever, and
or whatever.
So I don't have Venmo, just Cash App and PayPal. I'm old and behind in the times, so I'm getting older by the day. With that, I want to bid you all much love, namaste, and you guys have a great rest of your week as you enter into your weekend. Thank you so much. And with that, we out.
Yeah, well, I just want to say a few more things, probably a lot more things, but yeah, my mind is getting bad. I think I may be getting an early onset of Alzheimer's or something. I'm having trouble channeling anymore, keeping up with it. I'm trying to use AI, but then AI kind of fucks up some of the words, but it's better than hearing my voice. I also taped this over on the Pleiadian Blue Love and Healing, but I did I kind of wanted to see how I sounded doing the channeling again. So on the second part, that second question about the AI and shit, I did it with my voice. I don't know, it wasn't too bad, but you just get older. I just remember being so quick-witted about things that I could change the subject up on a dime in my mind. I didn't have to rehearse. I could just wing it back then. It seemed like it was that easy to just wing it. and just go for it. But you know what happens? You get older in 3D life, and you know the mechanics of your brain start to go, and the mechanics of your body, your knees, your hips, you know, your back, you know, you can't do the back over flip. I can't do the Tootsie Roll anymore or anything. I've long since not been able to do that. Um, you know, so that's just kind of how it goes. But you know, channeling is comes clear. I overthink it sometimes, but I got 32 collectives. I've got so many. And the little blue guru is a little bit. He's a very ascended soul. He's about a. When we first met, I thought I was hearing my dad talking to me, but it was him. You know, because I wished for a little blue guru. I needed what I was trying to do was at the time I was trying to do a meditation. I wanted to do a yellow and blue energy together meditation, and I did. And I said, God, I wish I had a little blue guru to help me. And I hear this guy go, "You were calling for a little blue guru, an old little blue guru?" And I said, "Dad, is that you?" No, and he wasn't there. And I said, "Huh?" And he said, "You're calling for a little blue guru?" And I said, "Yeah." An old one. And I said, "Oh, okay, I guess." He said, "Well, how does a trillion Earth years sound to you?" And I said, "Well, that's pretty old." I said that right to him. I said, "No offense, that's pretty damn old." So he worked with me on doing, you know, putting the words together for a meditation. And you know, he's really cool. The little blue guru's cool. You know, he's very knowledgeable and wise, and I like the blue instead of the red, because if I was wealthy, I'd have a guru. I'd have a living spiritual advisor like that. But have him wear a blue thing around, and I'd like it. And I'd fuck with my friends if they come over and they ask me a question. I'd say I can't answer that without my guru. I'm gonna have to go ask him if I can do that, because he worries about me. He doesn't want me making any decisions without his spiritual wisdom coming in. So you know, but no, I really would. But I'd be about 80% serious, about 20% doing it tongue in cheek. You know. So, what's going on all over the world here? The New Age Lightworker, Starseed, Metaphysical, you know, UFO Community Church that we're all a part of, right? You know, the Crystal Rainbow Metaphysical Living, Loving, Learning Light Center. Yeah. Well, we're here. So, I talked a little bit about on the other channel. I wanted to talk about some of the other people that I like to listen to. You know, I don't really listen to a lot of other people now, but I do. I have a knack for catching good talent. I'm not that good on air. I'm okay I'm just okay at my best on a lot of this shit, but I like doing it, right? But what I am really good at is I'm good at spotting talent. Okay, I just have a knack for it. It's no intelligence I have. A lot of it's from, you know, years of probably from about 1979 to 2010, about the time I started having the contacts. Right, I mean, I listened to, it was just, I was a political and not even that other, any kind of talk radio junkie that would be on about anything. You know, I mean, I lived on AM radio from the time I was 4 till, well, you know, what, 35? Yeah, so, I mean, every night, even when I was going to school, you know, I'd get a couple hours sleep because I listened to that shit all night. If I wasn't listening to AM radio come late night, it was because I was doing something. I was working, I was busy, you know, whatever I was doing. I mean, you know, probably nothing like usual. You know, well, I did have a life at one point, but so I learned to pick up different talents, different ways of doing things, different ways of entertaining people, different little nicks and knacks, and ways to kind of work people, hustle people. Plus, I learned a lot of shit from Ric Flair, Muhammad Ali, and Roddy Piper about how to talk. When I was younger, when I could talk quick-witted and fast, I could talk like they did. And they all passed it down from each other, that gift. They gave it to Dennis Rodman, too, that trash talk and that kind of swag that Ali invented. Very spiritual guy, but, whatever with that bullshit. He was just a good trash talker, man. I mean, he could talk shit to anybody, and play the semantics, go in the ring and bring a doctor with him, act like he was having a stroke, and have all the, all these devices hooked up to him, and then psych his opponent out like that, man. The same thing with Roddy and Rick. I mean, they could start a riot in an empty arena back when there were still people that thought the shit was real. Pro wrestling was real. Yeah, I mean, they could start a riot in an empty arena on the microphone, because the only thing that was scripted in those days was the match. But the acting, as far as the microphone talk did back then, they didn't rehearse it at all, and that's how you got over, right? And then of course Vince McMahon took it and changed it all, and it got, he took it and made it a complete soap opera where everything was rehearsed. The matches, the interviews, everything was completely rehearsed. Back then, nothing. The promoter would tell the guys, here's what happens. I want you to win. It's going to take that many minutes. You guys get in there and figure it out together. And they would, and they would ad-lib it. And just like that's how you got over around the country, was on the microphone, talking on the mic. Either getting that crowd to love you and want to follow you into hell to fight the devil, or to hate your ass and want to keep paying money to come back to see you win. And then work the fans, have the bad guy cheat to win several times, have this thing go on and drag out, and here comes the money, here comes the money, here comes the money, right? And then finally, they'll end the feud, but then a new one will start the next day. Nothing ever gets solved at the end of the day. It's a soap opera, and it's just changed now where the whole thing's scripted. Back then, the other shit was left up to the wrestlers back then. Oh, it's always been fake and fixed. I mean, it was never real. I mean, come on, you can't get your head slammed into a post every 5 nights a week, one time ever, right? But what they did was those guys did it. Till Vince McMahon ratted them all out. They did a hell of a job of keeping what they called kayfabe. That was keep the secret. That's like, people know it's fake, but don't cop to it. Don't cop to it. Don't cop to it. Reason Vince McMahon did. He didn't want to pay taxes because it was considered a sport still, because they didn't come right out and say it was fixed. So he had to pay a certain tax because it was a sport. Whereas if he would have said, "Hey, we're entertainment," it was a lot cheaper for him to book these arenas. So, even though he's a billionaire, he's a cheapskate. So that's what he did. And hey, but that's what it is, man. Things evolve, things change, and things get monopolized. You know what I mean? Everything does. It's just how it goes, man. That's 3D world for you. That's a dog eat dog 3D world, and it gets it everywhere, man. It isn't good or bad. It's an energy. It's just the nature of the game, right? So, and then that's just how it goes. Things change. Things evolve. We go from the horse and buggy to the Model T, to the car, to more efficient cars. To we should have probably been on hydroplaning cars by now. But that's another thing. The companies keep technology held back. I mean, that doesn't take a fucking genius to realize. Of course, they want to milk every last dollar out of everything they have. And then what they're doing in the meantime, is they're trying to figure out how they're going to monopolize that next wave that's coming in, right? Like right now, the oil companies are trying to figure out how they're going to monopolize electric cars and, shit that runs off other things, which we've had for years and years and years. Cars that run 70 miles to the gallon on water. You say, well, why aren't they out there more? Why aren't people using them? Because just because there's a control factor going on, you know what I mean? You don't really want to be a mark like that. You know what I mean? If you're going to do it, you're not telling anybody. I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there's people that got homemade rigged things at home, but they're not. That's one thing even somebody with a loud mouth probably is going to keep to himself. That's pretty serious, because it's not really illegal, but, I wouldn't be going out there and telling everybody that I had that. Just not smart to do. It's just not smart, and I don't, dude, nothing bothers me really like that, scares me. But, when you're up against something like that, yeah. It's one thing when you have somebody coming right at you to get you, but, but it's another thing when you don't know. You don't know where it's coming from. You don't know what the hell's going on. And you start fucking around with that kind of thing. I mean, those oil companies are powerful. People can go up, people end up missing real quick. I mean, so what are you going to do? But, what they're doing right now is they're scrambling and trying to figure out a way to put a monopoly on it, right? Because, let's face it, electric cars, by the time, if we're just going to talk about them, by the time the next decade rolls around, or we get about halfway through the 30s, you're going to be able to go charge one of those things for 5 minutes and go without, 1,000 miles is what they're projecting. And I'm sure of it. Of course technology gets better, right? And so, yeah, so what are they going to do? What kind of little thing are they going to do to monopolize it, right? That's why Tesla got blackballed, with his 3 inventions. Marconi ripped him off, Edison ripped him off, and who in the hell else ripped him off? Somebody else ripped him off, of course. So, he wanted to put these crystal towers up around the planet, like Atlantis had, that gave everybody free power. But we have a problem. Yep, there was just one little problem with it, though. One little teensy-weensy problem. And guess what? No money involved. Westinghouse, they want to cut us some money. Shit, we can't do that. Fuck, man, give it away for free, yo. No, man, show me the money. Seriously. That's what it was with Tesla, man. He was thinking about humanity and shit. Hey, look at all this stuff that could help. And he's out there inventing video cameras in the 1890s and shit. And he credits the Pleiadians, the Venusian band of Pleiadians, for his channeling. The Greys tried to get a hold of him. He's like, nah, I don't think so. I don't like your energy. Later on, Hitler went and channeled them, but got some. But he got some also from a rogue group out of Pleiades at a place called Aldebaran. That's why the Pleiades had to get involved a little bit with World War II, the other ones, and get those Foo Fighters out there, because they were trying to combat the only technology that Aldebaran had channeled down here to Hitler, because they're kind of a rogue band of Pleiadians. And there are societies like that in space that kind of like a fascist kind of a government. You know what I mean? That's what Nazis are. Fascism is what it is. It's just at its basis. It's where you have a society where corporations really don't have anybody to answer to. There's no oversight for a corporation. Okay, everything's corporate and privatized, but there's absolutely no oversight whatsoever by citizens at all. And they hate unions, busting unions, and there's still a lot of ignorant people. Oh, I got paid more money when I worked at a place that was non-union, and I paid my union. Dude, you get a clue. Get a real grip real quick. But, that's just how it goes, man. One-track mind thinking. Because it isn't these people. You see, it isn't any of these people. It isn't the Rockefellers. It's not the Rothschilds. It's not the goddamn Bilderberg Group. It's not the Warren Commission. It's not... I mean, can I go on and on and on? It's not fucking George Soros, believe me. We won't get into that. I mean, the side that he's accused of funding ought to sue his ass, because they really aren't getting a dime out of him, and they're being accused of getting billions from him. Shit, I'd want to sue Uncle George too. But these guys aren't the boogeyman, man. It ain't Bill Gates. It ain't Bezos. It really ain't Trump. It ain't Biden. It ain't, you know what I mean? It's the people, man. It's the people that are, just kind of one-track minded still, but not really in our starseed community, man. If people thought like us, it'd be a lot better world, and we know that. I mean, that's a big, profound statement. I get it. Oh, yeah. Like, no shit. But, only about 2% of us are awake, and I have it a little more technical. I have it at about 1.7, but galactics think it's about 2. They said it was 4, and I'm like, you guys are off your rocker. I told the Federation, you're out there. It's not quite that high. And they were disappointed it was that low. I'm like, well, if that was that good, that'd be 1 in 25. That's a lot of motherfucking awakened people, man. That means you're out at the store, you're going to run into another person who's like you. What are the odds that we don't know each other? We all live all over the world. We're stationed. Good luck ever meeting. So, I mean, you might meet a couple that are like you, but like these people online and shit, like we all know in the groups, dude, we don't really generally meet each other at all, man. It ain't even like that. Because we're stationed different places, right? I mean, well, there's a few times you meet, somebody. Yeah, it's happened. I've hooked a lot of people up. I've had 10 people get married because of me, over the years on here. So, and most of them worked out. But, it ain't like that. And if 1 in 25 is good, and they were bitching, I'm like, you guys are crazy. That's a good number. And then I said, but it's high, man. It's 2%. And they came back, yeah, it's 2%. I said, well, I figured so. Yeah, I mean, it's about 1 in 50, and that's still a good number, and I still am kind of doubting it a little bit. Ah, damn, is it that high? And they think it's low. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You'll never meet any of these motherfuckers in your life that online. Wanting, okay, you'll meet a couple, but for instance, you won't for all intents and purposes. But yet you're going to run into that many people out in town. I mean, even an average-sized town, Jesus Christ, you go to town, you go run into hundreds, if not thousands of people. If you go around, shopping here, go there, and you don't even think about it. But, I mean, trust me, why don't you know what, if you don't believe me, what you ought to do, and I would love for somebody to try this. Next time you go to town, take a little notepad with you, and go around and just randomly ask people and shit if they've ever heard of the Pleiadians. Oh, really? I mean, sir, the Arcturians. Have you ever heard of the Arcturians? Have you ever heard of the Pleiadians? And see, tally it up. I mean, really. Well, good luck, man. Maybe in a big city you would. If you go to okay, fine, okay. Yeah, if I went to the metaphysical shop, or if you went down to the living, loving, learning life of everything that is loving church, and I love those places. I'm just giving them a bad time. I love light centers. I wish I had one and a metaphysical shop. It's my dream. The Crystal Rainbow Metaphysical Shop was my dream, to have all that, services, classes on Reiki, astrology, numerology, all those ologies, astral traveling, and have also, a light center there. But, yeah, if you live in a bigger area and big city and go to one of those places, sure. I mean, duh. But I mean, out and about town, even in a big city, out and about town, take a notepad with you if you live in Chicago, LA, New York, Houston, Dallas, and on and on and on, Portland, Seattle, wherever the fuck it might be, Miami, New York, Detroit, shit, I don't know, fucking Oklahoma City, San Antonio, or my girl Carolyn, who we're going to be announcing tomorrow, doing a new series together. Her man lives in San Antonio. They've got a few metaphysical shops there, but I mean, it's Texas, for Christ's sakes. I mean, let's get real. They're not. It isn't going to be quite like a smaller town Northwest one, even as far as progression goes. I mean, let's get real. It'd be like going to one in Arkansas or somewhere, right? I mean, really. I mean, that ain't that. Good luck, Mississippi. Right? I don't think so, man. And kind of half-assed if they have one. But that's just the way it goes. I mean, you got to understand that in this cause, in this community that we're in, I mean, in before the internet came out, even into the 90s, even probably about the turn of the century, especially the 80s and 70s, my God. I mean, if you didn't live in San Francisco or Los Angeles, it was cool and hip it was cool and hip like it is for us now if you lived in San Francisco or Los Angeles. You know what I mean? If short of that, man, forget it. Hey everybody, I see you in the chat room there. I'm having my glasses. Goddamn crafters hasn't gotten back to me. Good to my heart. Okay, I'm trying to read your message, Bree. Yeah. Love language. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in a second. If you're still, I'm going to talk about that. That's a hot ass topic going on right now, and I've been saying that too. Man, that is the light language, the love language, the codes. Man, hot. There ain't nothing hotter in our community right now. But real quick, back in those days, right? And I've got a lot of tapes from a Saturday night show that was in the '80s, way before Coast to Boring Coast AM came along. Okay, it's called Open Mind Radio, and man, they have some real experts on there. There was some good. Here's the deal with the people in our movement back then. About a third of them were fucking whack jobs. A third of them didn't care. They're like, whatever. And a third of them were the true OG pioneers that we owe everything to. People that blow my mind to listen to today, to hear them then. Seriously. So it was that kind of a dichotomy within our community then, that extreme. You had like the best ever to ever do it, right? And you had a third of them that were fucking cult-like wacko weirdos, dude. I mean, David Koresh type people. Jim Jones type shit, man. Hey, seriously, mind control. Look, man, they made a girl blow her head off on TV in '74. The tape's on YouTube. I won't watch it, man. But they say it's a fake, but I had to watch it for research one time when I was a cop. And I'll tell you what, it looked like it was sure as hell real the way a '74 local TV channel looked. It was in black and white. Of course, we've long since had color, and if it would have been out of one of the major networks, it would have been in color. But, you're talking about a small town, little station back then. And VCRs were just coming in their infancy. So shit was unreal. And it's crazy. This girl she started going on Midday News. Christine, they made a couple movies on her. Midday News, she started going off on young men in America. She wasn't married, she was 28, how they don't want to get married anymore. And about guns, and then she reached behind her back and blew her brains out. I'm sorry to share that with you, but my uncle was going to go work that case. This was a year before I was born. My uncle was going to go work that case. We don't talk about it much in the family. I mean, that really crazy. But, but what I'm getting at by bringing that up is, there was that mind control going on. And so our community got a bad name. It really got a bad name, and some of our people didn't do it any good. And then we got lumped in with Scientology, like nut jobs like L. Ron Hubbard and shit. You know what I mean? And people like that, right? These weird cult leaders, the Rajneeshis, when Osho was cool when he was younger, a great leader, but Osho lost his mind and shit, and it happens, man. Here's another one. And I channeled this guy one time. A friend of mine hooked him up to channel with this entity because he isn't in my collective. The Seth material, Seth. Yeah, man, because I wanted to know what in the hell the deal was with Jane Roberts, who was the first one to really channel him. And she'd get into these fucking semantics when channeling him. They'll start, oh, spirit, oh God, I hear you coming through me. And I guess he was like, man, knock it off. You're gonna make people think I'm a demon entity. And why don't you calm down on the drugs? And I said, did you tell her that stuff? Really? He said, yeah, but man, he said, as you know, it was a really cool night when I was talking to him. He was cool, calm, didn't even think he was gonna come through. He did. I said, hey, and he said, hey. He was real calm and matter of fact. And he said the problem is it was free will. He said he respects free will so much, and he asked me if I could appreciate that. I said, I sure can. Yeah, of course I can, man. Yeah, but I just was wondering if you had ever thought about it, or, if you guys are above thinking. They said, yeah, I had mentioned it to her, but I mean, what could I do? It's free will. What could I do? But yeah, I thought she was really weird. Not weird, but he didn't put it like that. But he's like, I tried to explain to her that, we're trying to give a message of love to humanity, and it's not doing us any good for you to jump up and start getting into semantics. I mean, really, I don't know what in hell people were doing back then. They must have really started getting high off it, like religion, like some people do, and turn to religion and get high off it. People aren't thankfully like that anymore. I don't see any channelers now, because I don't see any of them. You take a deep breath, sure, and get into a trance, of course, but getting into these fucking semantics, people. I'm sure guides are, spirit guides that are coming through and looking at it and like, what the fuck? Because they have a sense of humor too, but, and they realize, they realize that stuff doesn't look cool. I don't know what it was with them. Some kind of mind control was going on, then too. It was probably a power struggle. If you were to maybe I'll do a documentary on it one day and start interviewing people. I know some old school New Agers back in those days. I've talked a little bit about it with them, and yeah, how it kind of was. It was kind of a power struggle between people that really were pioneers and kicked ass in this, and people that were flipped out. It really. You can imagine, right? You can imagine. It's like same battle I have with the Trash Tar Command. I'm like, man, don't be a cult. Quit it. I know that entity, and he's okay, but he's an egomaniac. You know what I mean? He likes that mind control. And I mean, I'm not into that shit at all, man. I don't look up to a motherfucker. Well, maybe Eric Von Däniken, who wrote Chariots of the Gods, and Roddy Piper, about it. Okay, a guy named Dan Marino, but that's it. I mean, it's nice to meet him and know him, and I've interviewed some popular people years ago when I was with N5D, but I'd rather interview people, and that's what I do, that are in the groups. Everybody's got a story. I mean, fuck David Wilcock. We've heard his shit a million times. I mean, he's as predictable as the next pro wrestling match. He's a master at what he does, though. He's wonderful at it. He got paid, yo, so I can't complain about David. He's got paid. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of him, he got paid. But what he's good at, what he's a brilliant genius at, is he is a genius. He's smart. He's a smart dude. He's good at reading what's going on, reading the public. He's very good at reading the tide. I mean, I watched this guy. He used to call into Art Bell in the 90s when he was a teenager, a little bit in the late 90s. But listen, man, I watched this guy take every presidential candidate and every president we've had, both parties, every one of them, in the last, since the 90s, and each one of them at a time, when they may be doing, that they were ahead in the polls in the paper, right? You have flip-flops, right? Oh, yeah, they were a part of the Galactic Federation, right? So it was Bill Clinton, then it was George W. Bush, and then, of course, it was fucking John Kerry who was running, and then, of course, it was Barack Obama, then it was Donald Trump, then poor Trump's got replaced like 4 times. It was Donald Trump, of course, then it was Hillary for a while, then it was Biden, then it was Trump again, then it was Harris, then it was Trump again. He does that shit. With maybe maybe this is part of the big thing of the disclosure. He's so good at playing it. I've heard him a million times. He's beautiful. I shared a story about him the other week. The funniest fucking thing that ever, and I'd pay 100. I said 50. I'd pay $100 if anybody could get a hold of this tape. But Coast doesn't keep their shit that long anymore. Even if you're an insider, you can only get like back 5 years. This was in like 2000. This was like early 2014, okay? My son had some of the kids from the football team over. He was in junior high, and his last year junior high, and I was just sitting there, in my room, they kind of had the house. I was sitting there in the room, it was quiet. I was just, having a Pepsi, smoking a joint, looking out the window, watching the moon and watching the stars and my UFOs fly around. So I had Coast to Coast on, Coast to Boring Corporate Coast on. It was Open Minds Night with George Norrie. It was midnight my time, so I'm on the West Coast, right? So I had it on. It's on in the background. I'm not even paying attention to it. And all of a sudden, I hear George Norrie go to his producer, go, Tom, hey, Tommy, is that David Wilcock on line 5? And that caught my ear because I'm like, okay, but why would David Wilcock call in on that line? They wouldn't. They call in a private line. Well, it was David Wilcock. So George, and Tom, the producer's like, yeah, George, I think you better take this phone call. I think you better take it. It's David. He's not doing too good. I'm like, huh? And he picks up the phone, and David Wilcock is fucking hysterically freaking out, man. He is freaking out, and even got my attention. I'm worried for him for a second. I stopped what I was doing and gluing myself to the radio. And Wilcock's like, oh my God, George, they're going to kill me. They're going to get me. They're going to kill me. They're going to kill me. And really just in hysterics. And George, good old George is all, well, who's going to get you, David? Who's going to kill you? Who's after you? What is going on, David? Oh, George, they're gonna get me. They're gonna get me. And David, of course, the hit list, the hit parade came right out. I mean, it was the Illuminati, it was the Rothschilds, it was the Rockefellers, it was the Bilderberg Group, it was probably the Warren Commission, it was probably the Future Homeowners of America. I mean, you name it, he called it. Okay, everybody, the NSA, everybody was coming for him, and so he's hysterical, and gosh, David, what are you gonna do? David, you got to go to the police. And David's like, oh no, George, I can't do that. No, I can't, George. I can't do that at all. I can't do that. Well, gosh, David, what are you gonna do? It just seems like, well, I don't, you got people to stay with. This is pretty serious. What's gonna happen? Okay, so the phone goes dead for about, I don't know, 10 seconds. And on radio, because I've worked it for years. That's a long motherfucking time. Okay, seriously, people, it's a long time. So then all of a sudden the radio comes back on. And there's David Wilcock. Now, keep in mind, people, he was hysterical. His voice had completely changed and did a 360. Hi, George. And David, are you okay? You're back. Okay, are you okay? Nothing happened, did it, David? No, George, but I got to tell you, but yeah, I can't call the police, George. I can't do that. But what they did tell me is, they told me that if I can make it till Monday morning without getting killed, if I can make it till Monday morning and they don't find me, they'll never bother me again in my life, and sometimes they'll even help protect me. And I thought, I was taking a drink of my Pepsi at the time, and as he's saying that out of his mouth and gets it out, I spit it through my nose and all over my bedspread that I just got out of the wash. I couldn't believe it. I knew right then, I knew what he was doing, and I laughed, and I was like, I felt like giving David a high five. He was working an angle. He was just working an angle. I mean, yeah, and keep in mind, it's by this time, it's probably about 1 o'clock here on the West Coast. And back in, well, he does that out of LA, so it's the same time, or sometimes George is in St. Louis, and that's only 2 hours. But keep in mind, I think Wilcock lives down in California, or he used to anyway. But so, whatever, it's getting to be at 1 o'clock in the morning, okay? It's on till 2. And George is like, well, David, you got somewhere to stay. You got lots of people that love you. You got people that stay. You can go here. You can go there. Just don't come to my house in L.A. or New York or L.A. and St. Louis. No, George didn't say that. That's my little joke I had in. But the rest of the shit really has all happened. That's why I want to get a hold of that tape. It's funny. I mean, it was just priceless. And yeah, but then David must have reiterated for the next 15 minutes over and over and over again that if he ends up making it, and by that time, it was, another shit. If he ended up making another 47 hours without them finding him, they would not only never mess with him, but they'd sometimes protect him. You see what I mean? You see what a good, that's him, man. He's great at it. He wrote one really great book years ago on consciousness, and, he's a mastermind. He knows how to work people. I mean, he knows how to play people like a fiddle. He's the kind of guy that you could get in a yes-no argument with. That dude could switch it up on a dime on you and start arguing your point, and then you'd be like arguing, you'd be like taking back and arguing for him. He's that good, man. Like I said, he's every presidential candidate since the 90s and president, both, all of them, both parties have all been part of the Galactic Federation here and there, if they were up in the polls in the paper. Yeah. So he's good at reading that and good at reading the public tide and where they're going. He knows, too, what he's a mastermind at is he realizes that people only think with 1 week, even most starseeds, unfortunately, they think about 1 week ahead of time, and that's it. And so whatever happened last week, they don't remember shit. So unless you're one of us old school Blu-rays, they don't know. They don't know fucking really what's going on, except they do. They're brilliant in the moment. These kids they're all brilliant in the moment. But I mean, to ask them to remember last week or to think about it in their conscience, they're too busy for it. It's not a bad thing, man. It's just how it is. But they don't, and he knows it, and he takes advantage of it. You know what I mean? And it works for him. I mean, look, man, it works. I'm proud of him in a way. I mean, I remember when he was a kid calling into Art Bell in the '90s, but I mean, I just know that he's not. It's entertainment, and hey, man, he got paid, yo. He got paid. Corey got paid too. Corey's great, man. I love Corey to death. He's on Gaia now and shit. Man, when he first came in, when we interviewed him on N5D, he was nervous. He had long hair. He was just kind of dressed casual. He was just kind of trying to figure it out himself. And, when he got into channeling the Blue Avians, see, that was about the time that somebody brought them up to me too and wanted to know if I was interested in channeling them. And I'm like, nah, I don't think so. That doesn't sound, some bluebirds. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think that's getting a little lame. But no, I'm too busy with shit anyway. And boy, I wish I would have. I don't really. I channel the yellow avians now, but the blue ones, I love them to death, but it's just one of them decisions I made not to. But Corey did a great job with it. But, Wilcock's good at scouting out talent too. Wilcock is really good at scouting out talent as well, like Corey and like this old guy Hopkins and this guy Pete Johnson. Pete had to quit doing it though because Pete, I don't know, they were fucking with his social security or his military pension or how they do and shit. And so, but yeah, but David, no, he's a genius. He knows that, this week the public's going to think this, and then next week he can change it up and they won't remember. And so, he's just taken for what he's worth, you know what I mean? It's the same, he's very good at recycling the same thing, but if you listen to him for, fuck, how long have I been listening to him here off and on? Shit, man, it'll be 30 years coming up here pretty soon. How young we all once were. Yeah, in a couple of years, it'll be 30 years since I first probably heard him calling in Art Bell. Yeah, it's a crazy game, It really, really is. But you have it everywhere, where there's a way to take advantage, and then some people just aren't quick-witted enough to do it, and there's some people that are like I was in my prime. I just couldn't do it to people. I had a scam that would have made me maybe a millionaire now. It wouldn't have been a scam; it was legal. But it would have required me selling out every principle I had. Now, I could be a jokester and have done it for a weekend to fuck with people. You bet. It would have been hilarious. But I couldn't do it. It would have required me 5 days a week for about 3 hours a day, really, in a different kind of a get-up on the camera, and it would have required me lying like hell and going, and stating shit I didn't believe, like the opposite. And I had it, man. I would have made Alex Jones look like a choir boy. I had the name. We had it all figured out. Seriously, like, really. And I was going to be really a hardcore right-wing paranoid and make Alex Jones look like he was a little mild. But like I said, it would have required me selling out everything. 2017 till now, doing it like that though, and a lot of sheep that listen to like right-wing talk like that, they're into that kind of stuff. They are quick to donate money to people like that. They just do, and plus those kind of people have the money. And they do it, so Alex Jones isn't hurting, even though all those judgments against him, and he's worked for it though. He knows how to work the public too. He knows how to work his audience. See, I don't really get into too much anymore my opinions on these people, because that's really secondary. I don't even know them in public. I've dealt with David a couple times, but that was a long time ago. Just real quick, briefly. But, it's, David Icke's another mastermind at doing that. David Icke's good at doing that too, his problem, reaction, solution theory. And it's true, unfortunately, he's right about that. But, he had to reinvent himself several times too and work it. But you gotta everybody's gotta eat, right? Yeah, I don't envy them, because what I take from them is they're entertainers. And I try to see what I can glean from them, as far as speaking ability, or what it is that they do, because it is part entertainment. Especially when you're talking about those guys. They're not Well, David Wilcock is brilliant. Alex Jones is kind of he's just a good manipulator, right? Wilcock's smart, really smart. He's probably a genius IQ-wise, I'd say, with him. But the thing is scary with him is he also knows how to work a crowd. And I'm glad he's not any more devious than that because, he could really, he could sell a refrigerator to somebody in northern Siberia. Sell them a freezer. Yeah, he's got that kind of gift. But everybody, we're all just a part of a manifestation of each other, really. You know what I'm saying? It's all that it is. We're just a manifestation of each other. And most of the time when we have a problem with somebody else, and I'm the first one to, step up to the plate on that, it's usually a problem we have with ourselves, right? There's some kind of thing that's bugging us that we're not doing right, right? And so, that's what it is really, because when you come back, we're all part of the source. Look, when we wake into full consciousness, we'll look in the mirror at each other and we'll be the same person. We're the same. When you have that consciousness, it's about, I got it figured at about 3 trillion times what the normal humans is, right? Of course, they'll use 100% of their brain. They'll be you'll be 10 times more scholastically smart, but it's consciousness-wise is what it is. It'll be, I had it figured out. I had a guy tell me that, okay, 15% though, the thing is it's going to double at each percent, going all the way to 100. And I thought, man, that's almost a trillion times. He said, exactly. That's the Christ consciousness, like a trillion times more consciousness. He's only about 10%. He's only about 90% more book smart than us, but he's a he's a trillion times consciousness level ahead. Well, maybe he's only a couple billion. You know what I mean? It's got to be the whole thing together to be a trillion. But still, I mean, my God, can you imagine? It'd be mind blowing. You'd be able to keep track of what the hell was going on multiple planets at one time in your mind, watching everything all at once. And I think that's another thing too. They talk about the parallel realities coming in and everything mixing together. I think that's going to also require a brain activation upgrade, so that we can handle that. Right, so we have our consciousness can handle that spectrum is open to us, just like with frequency coming up now with the light. Starting to hear light. That's always been there, but we're going to get to be tuned into that frequency. And of course, with going telepathic, it only makes sense, that the light is going to be a big deal. Light language, light codes, seeing symbols in the light when it's a complex message you're trying to download. Lots of symbols, lots of keys, maybe some small words in there that you're going to see. And then when it's something very basic, you might not even need a symbol. The light might just be able to blink at you and give it to you. But when it's anything, more complex, it'll be as, for how complex it is, will be what it is. But light language, I think that you'll see it, future generations will see stuff like that taught in schools, plasma quantum learning, I call it. Meditating on a plasma thing, moving around different colors, but maybe one word on it or a phrase, and it really spawns some stuff in you. Light language, letting yourself get into kind of a relaxed state of mind and taking your hand and just see what you draw. I think that should be that's why I need to talk to more experts on it, because that's not my thing, but I know how popular it is, right? It's huge. And I had a guest on that wrote a book about it, so I have my own expert. Chantel Cash was on week before last, and she'll be on again, but she's written books about light language and one about the Anunnaki, and she writes children's books with her daughter. I was giving her a bad time. I thought, I'm glad you didn't incorporate all those in one book. Anunnaki, light language by the Anunnaki for children. Yeah, yeah, that'd be funny. But I make sure, when I describe her, she posts a lot of really cool shit. She's got a page called Activate Sacred Light Codes. Yeah, I post a lot of her stuff because my page is a lot like hers, the Rainbow Orb Collective, or the Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbow Orbs. But, I make sure that when I'm describing her about her being an author of that I put commas, because I wouldn't want anybody to think she's writing Anunnaki books, teaching Anunnaki light language to children. Yeah, no, not really. And so, but anyway, she's got one Anunnaki book. I think she plans on writing another one. This is all this stuff's come to her through channel. It's kind of funny because we had the same thing. She learned all of her stuff from downloads about the Anunnaki. My shit is just by reading about them. they weren't really my thing. I mean, I've read The 12th Planet. It's a brutal book. It's a brutal motherfucking book to read. I wouldn't do it if I were you. I'd listen to William Shatner do the audio version on YouTube of it. Yeah, the book is brutal. I still can't believe I read it. It's brutal to read. Sitchin's brutal. He's good to listen to in an interview, but he's boring as hell to listen to live, do a speech, and he's dead. But he's the one that interpreted all the Sumerian tablets and wrote the 12th Planet. He got it about 80% right. The only thing he was wrong on was that he thought Nibiru was a 3,600-year elliptical orbit on a planet, which was a stupid thought. That why would a society that advanced not have a biodome planet? And Eric Von Däniken and Chariots of the Gods, they were like really good, almost best friends. He told him, no man, that's a biodome. Nibiru's a biodome if it exists. Yeah, of course it would be. No advanced race that advanced would stay on, not go to that. I mean, Christ. In elliptical orbit, they're going to come get us, but it's going to be 3,600 years by. They can't get out of where they're at. It's just going to wait till it comes back by. I don't think so. They ain't going to be showing up, people. I wouldn't expect Nibiru. If it's somebody, it's not going to be Nibiru. Nibiru, and it ain't even Nibiru what you're seeing back there. It's most likely it's Alcyone, the central sun, having a good time back there when you're seeing that second sun. It isn't fucking, there's a lot of, how would my homeboy put it like that? I think Julian Wells, God rest his soul, Julian Wells was a Pleiadian channeler with an attitude, and him and I got to be really good friends. Nobody remembers him. It's sad because he was great. He was really going to be one of the most preeminent ones. He came up in early 2000s, or 2011, 14, 15, 16, really good on a lot of talk shows everywhere and the circuit. And he was great. He was a Pleiadian with an attitude like me. He was great. I'd heard him before I started doing it, and then I got to interview him. It was really crazy, wild, and then we did a couple together. Yeah, but he passed away, but yeah, he called them the Nibiru Nutters. Yeah, I was like at the time, whatever, I'm sure the 3,600 years, Sitchin, well, he wasn't right. And nobody had the fucking brains to think, well, if it was like that, if they really wanted to come back here and shit, I'm sure they could build a biodome ship like most of these other societies that probably aren't as advanced as they are do even. Why would they, and Von Däniken came out about the time and was like, I told him, he was on an interview, I told him, man, one night, that it's not a planet on a 36-year elliptical orbit. It was a big-ass biodome, and the reason they wanted all our gold was for two reasons. It wasn't just one, and people will argue that it was one or the other. Nope, they needed it for two reasons. They needed it they used it for vitamins. They also used it for their biodome atmosphere. People would get caught up in this, they need it for that atmosphere. No, they needed it for both. It's never for one reason, anything, ever. Never, ever. Just like with magic, there's no such thing. When you see magic, you're seeing one or two things. It's funny, magic is so mystical, but the reality of it is it's only one or two things it could ever possibly be that you're seeing. You're either seeing somebody with some technology, like an instrument that you're not familiar with, that you've never seen, that's more advanced, be like talking on a cell phone in the 50s, right? You're looking at some technology you've never seen that's causing that, okay? It's magic, right? Or you're dealing with a really super ascended being that has mastered levitation, telekinesis, even getting you to block out your memory for a second, and, even if they're of the light, of course, they have that ability. Mind reading, the society where, they can manifest things with their mind, right? So that's magic in a way to us, right? But there's an explanation for everything is what I'm getting at. That's how magic is conducted. And a society that has advanced people like that, chances are they already had the instrument, and the society with the instrument to be able to conduct that, they're on their way, if they're not already, at becoming like that, where they can do it physically, right? So that's what it is, it's not necessarily doesn't have to be a guy with a wand going abracadabra, although it could be, just have fun. Or it could be that you're on the street corner of New York City and it's a guy named Monty or Vito or Guido or Danny P that, want you to put a couple dollars down and, tell them which cup the shell's under, and lo and behold, the shell wasn't under the cup you seen it go under. Yeah, so, that's magic. That's how it is. It's something you don't understand. It's an instrument, or it's a being that can just do that stuff, and I guess that is magic, but it's not, But people don't want to think that shit through. It's what I don't understand. Why would they want to keep it as a fairy tale and unexplainable when there's an explanation for everything? There has to be. You know, somebody knew something, somebody saw something, somebody did something, and it just didn't immaculately happen. I mean, the Immaculate Conception, no, it was artificial insemination. If the story is even anywhere in the realm of truth, it's artificial insemination by extraterrestrials. And that's not blasphemous to say. Fuck, I mean, it's a reality. I mean, nobody waved a goddamn magic wand and somebody was pregnant. I mean, you know, this stuff, you gotta take the mysticism out of the shit. Yeah, it's great, but it's a lie. You know what I mean? It's a lie in the fog. Totally, it's a fool's errand. When you know that there's a reason why they can do that. Either you can leave it at that they're ascended so much that they have that ability. And you can be in awe and wonder why. But why would you wonder why, though, when the answer is pretty obvious that, okay, well, their society has been around X amount of years longer than mine has, and it's just natural that if they survive, that, you know, you're going to evolve and advance. So, you know, what would be the, yeah, it'd be really cool to see, of course, but what would be the mystery as to why? There's no mystery. There's no mystery to it. There's a mystery. Only mystery is the one that you don't have the information on. You know, of a case you're trying to solve as a police officer. Believe me, I know. You know, fuck up late thinking about it. You know, what could this be? You know, and you're always missing that one little angle, that one little part, and then once you get it, you're like, aha, fuck, I knew it. Same thing, man. Same kind of thing. But yeah, I don't. You know, unless you're just into, you know, I love doing that stuff for kind of role play too. I like magic and watching magicians, and I'm very intrigued by it. You know what I mean? It's really cool, and it's a talent. It's a really cool talent to have. Yeah, I mean, you know, it is, but it just isn't magic. It isn't. There's a reason for it. It's magic. Okay, well, how did it mechanically happen? Something had to spurn something to something. What, somebody thought it and it happened? Yeah, and could be with an advanced being. Very what easily could be. I mean, you're talking about, we were creator gods and goddesses, people. You gotta understand, we terraformed planets. We built star systems, okay? These things are built intelligently. What do you think all those goddamn nebulas are out there? They're creation, I've been saying this forever, they're creation manifestation centers, the one kind. There's different sorts of nebulas, but the one, it's funny, the planetary nebula is really not the planetary nebula, it's the other nebula that's more, should be called the planetary nebula. It's really odd, but the one nebula, there's beings in them all the time making and recycling stars, you know, when they're not busy creating. They're creating in there. These are intelligence creations. It's not just some unexplainable thing. This shit can all be tracked down. And if we don't start wanting to have that thirst to want to know, if we want to just keep it in, oh, it's magic and some things aren't meant to be known, fuck, man, we get out of here, we get out of ascending out of here, and, you know, yeah, we'll be stuck there forever. The questions have to be asked. The veil has to be lifted even off of things we think are cool and we need to be left mysterious, especially those. Let's get those open before we even go after the bad stuff. Let's get that shit out of the way. You know, so we don't have to worry about fucking somebody joining. You know, this is the thing I love. The thing is, I know a lady who's really been into Wicca for years. She's wonderful, and one thing that gets on her nerves, and I could imagine it does. I thought so. I had to ask her the question one day. I mean, people that get into it just, you know, and then they're half-assed. They don't want to, or they're into it for the mysticism of it, and not the seriousness of it, because it's a serious thing, man. You know, it's a serious-ass thing. And they get into it, and they're kind of like for a fad, man. But it ain't like that, man. Witches were the nurses back in the Middle Ages until they started being killed 3 a week for 200 years, which is on record. God knows how many they really killed. All because, I mean, you know, they had recipes to help and everything for anything, man. But, you know, people get scared and paranoid, and yeah, they really do. People are really paranoid, even still to this day. I have this entity I channel. I don't call him that. The Blue Orb Goddess. Most of the sisters I've talked to like her. She's really provocative, though, and a lot of innuendo. And, dude, all these guys were on listening to her, and they're like, oh, hell no, that's deception. That's deception. She's just trying to lull you in. Lull you into what, dude? In your wettest ones? Dude, this energy, no, man. And she'd tell your ass if she had a problem with you. I mean, you can't handle a strong woman, punk? I mean, seriously. Okay. Yeah, I mean, oh, it's innuendo. Well, yeah, well, that's true. That I've like, man, I don't know if I need to channel her anymore, but it isn't because of anything evil. It's just because she gets real sexually innuendo and we get sexual, but, I mean, it's a little bit uncomfortable. Talking about her sharing energy and shit with people. And most of the women I've talked to love her. They think she's great and powerful, but she starts talking about wanting to share energy with people, and it's her tone, and, I'm in a trance doing this, so I'm reading it afterward, and I get done, and I kind of clear my mind. I'm like, oh, God, okay, let's go back, and, oh, I don't remember saying that, And then about 2 or 3 times after I listen to it, it'll start to sound better, but, yeah, a lot of people like her, though, but she's really provocative and that kind of thing. The innuendos, it's pushes it right to the limit about sharing energy with people. Yeah. Anyway, but people getting freaked out by that. Oh, it's deception. Hell no. Well, okay, man. Okay, the boogeyman's around the corner too. And you know what? He might be. I'm not saying don't be cautious, for Christ's sake, man. I was a gangbanger as a kid and a cop when I was an adult. How do you think I got where I am unscathed? By not having one eye behind my head all the goddamn time my whole life. I get it. I taught my kids, don't you ever relax. Don't you ever, when you're in public in America, you never relax. You have that head swirling at all times and looking. You can't afford it. Before my daughter went to college, same thing, man. I kind of don't. Yeah, just don't. Don't be the one. Be very cautious. Tread lightly everywhere. You have to. But don't give it all your energy. I'm not saying that, but you have to be aware. You can't just be in a lull when you're out. You can't go, skipping through the daisies in the public without at least knowing who in the hell's over here, what the hell's over there, have to given it a quick look around. That's how people slip and get hurt. But unfortunately, that's the society we live in, though, here, is that you got to be a little cautious like that. But I was just really hard with the kids about that. You live in America. You don't relax till you get home. Yeah, you're out in the jungle. Don't feed the animals. But anyway, so that's about it. Light language is really hot, like I said, hot topic in our community. The codes, it's great. It's wonderful. That's being talked about a lot. And, it goes in phases. The Schumann resonance is back again because of what we're going through with the planet. I'll tell you a funny story. It was a few months back, probably 5 months back. I hadn't been paying attention to much, and somebody had a post with the Schumann resonance on it, and I thought I was in a time warp. I thought, because I hadn't been hip to, I knew the energy shit we went through was rough, but I mean, I hadn't thought of the Schumann resonance in years, man. I hadn't thought about that since probably 2016 or 17, really, because it was all the rage back then. Because you think it was bad now, 2014 to early or mid 15 was the worst probably stretch we've ever had for ascension shifts. Terrible. People almost dropping dead like flies during that time. It was terrible. The bones, the aches, and it wasn't that this last one was the biggest motherfucker of all, though. I have to admit, this November one we had, oh yeah. But now, can you imagine having a year, though, where you had ones that were 3/4 to 90% as bad, like every other goddamn month? Really, that's about what it would be like. Something about, 3/4 to 90% as nutty as that one we just had, but having them every other motherfucking month. Seriously. Yeah, it was like that, man. Some of the top people that are in the game now, I remember talking, and they just, dude, laying on the floor stretching, and my former co-host Raquel Toombs had the worst ones I'd ever seen, man. Hers were terrible. We'd be on the phone for 6 hours a night. She'd be like freaking out, and she's she's one tough girl. I mean, and so, yeah, it was pretty brutal. Pretty brutal time. Showing him. I never seen any again until we had this last one. Somebody tried claiming we had one around the time of 1920 when COVID was coming out. I keep saying that, but I mean, I don't, dude, I'd like to challenge somebody to say it. Yeah, it wasn't shit, trust me, if it was. I mean, maybe for you, individual shifts are always rough as hell. That could have been very true for that person. But a collective one during that time, yeah, well, yeah, well, you weren't around in 2014, obviously, if you had a thought like that. Yeah, so, you know. So we went basically 9 3/4 of a year. You know, I mean, about 9 1/4 year between one really nutty one to another, and that was this November, which was really freaky intense. You know, on a one-time level deal. Yeah, it was as intense as any of the ones back then. You know, maybe even a little bit more, like I said. But it was a one-time thing. It wasn't every other month for a year and a half. You know, it was always going on. Plus, a ton of people were awakening back then, and the shift ones, they were having so many of the shifts go on that the individual ones that it was starting to really, that even was starting to affect the collective. Okay, and then you had, yeah, 2014 was probably what I would always say, and a couple people have too, that it was probably the most important year so far in our cause. You know, if you weren't awakened, then God, I wish you would have been there. It was the time you would never forget if only you could remember. You wouldn't want your bones to remember, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, and dude, and it was, there was shit going on the planet. We spent a couple years in, I swear we spent a couple years in Mercury retrograde straight. Yeah, because of all kinds of weird alignments going on during 2012 and that time, which was just a halfway point in the galactical shift, and there was nothing big with 2012. Not a big deal at all. Well, yes, it was. That's a lie. Yes, it was. It was a big deal, but not probably for any of the reasons any of you would think. It was just a big deal. A lot of weather anomalies, a lot of, you know, that the sun, the moon, and Alcyone, the Pleiades, that little eclipse the three of them had together, the first time that happened in 26,000 years. Well, that was in 2012, but it was that stretch there, that 2012 through 15 stretch, that 3-year, 4-year stretch, that 11 through 15 stretch was really key for everything. So, I know, I sound like an old timer now, but it's true, so. I can't really speak for back then, for before then, because, you're getting into early internet times, and it'd be hard to gauge it on a nationwide level if everybody was having a shift in the New Age movement back, before the internet. So I'm sure they had them, but it was probably individual things, and that mostly were talked about, and people would commiserate with that. But the internet let us kind of get together, and thank God for the internet, really, man. We get to all meet each other. Yeah, get a grip if you're complaining about it. Or, of course, I can't wait. With the internet, what the internet should have been like was quantum computing. Like, the Pleiadians talk about. That'll be the next evolution in it. And that's good. Alright, this is Rockin' Larry Lockin', and I am going to go ahead and sign off. Yeah, this message will be free. There's nothing much to tell. My heart is signing off, direct from AOL. There's just one thing I've got to say to you. Goodbye. I think. There we go.